America's environmental journey is a long, complex, and ever evolving story. It began when the nation first recognized the need to conserve its natural resources, and today it has reached a point where environmental crises, especially climate change, have become the greatest challenges at both national and global levels. In the late 19th century, as America rapidly industrialized, a few visionary thinkers and scientists recognized the importance of nature and began advocating for the protection of forests, wildlife, and natural landscapes. Their efforts led to the creation of national parks, environmental laws, and agencies focused on conservation. However, over time, industrial growth, expanding urban populations, and unsustainable energy use disrupted the ecological balance. From the mid 20th century onward, America began facing serious challenges: pollution, deforestation, water scarcity, and ultimately climate change. This story is not just about the environment, it is about human behavior, political decisions, scientific research, and public awareness. It is crucial to understand where America went wrong, where it made progress, and how the world's largest economy is responding to this global crisis. The 1906s marked a period of rising environmental consciousness in America. After World War II, rapid industrial growth made the US an economic powerhouse, but the price of that development was paid by the environment. Factory smoke, growing automobile emissions, toxic waste in rivers, and chemical fertilizers began threatening both the land and human health. The air was becoming polluted, rivers were filling with poison, and birds and animals were vanishing. In 1962, biologist Rachel Carson published her landmark book Silent Spring, which exposed the deadly effects of chemical pesticides, especially DDT. Carson showed that these toxins didn't just kill insects, they harmed birds, aquatic life, and ultimately humans. Silent Spring became a symbol of a future spring where birds no longer sang because they had gone extinct. The book shocked both the public and the government. For the first time, environmental issues became a national conversation. People held protests and rallies demanding urgent action. This growing awareness led to the first Earth Day in 1970 and the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency EPA. This movement laid the foundation for America's modern environmental era. The 1970s can be seen as a revolutionary period in US environmental legislation. The awareness built during the 1960s now translated into official policies. Several landmark environmental laws were enacted, legally recognizing environmental protection as a national priority. In 1970, the US government created the Environmental Protection Agency (EPA), responsible for monitoring pollution, enforcing environmental laws, and protecting public health. The same year, the Clean Air Act was passed, limiting harmful emissions from factories, vehicles, and other sources. In 1972, the Clean Water Act was passed to address the crisis of industrial waste and sewage in American waters. Then, in 1973, the Endangered Species Act was enacted to protect animals and plants facing extinction. These laws didn't just tackle pollution, they also empowered the protection of natural ecosystems, forests, rivers, and wildlife. This period marked a national realization that development and industry must go hand in hand with environmental preservation. For the first time, environmental progress became a permanent part of national policy. The 1980s and 1990s marked a turning point in recognizing climate change as a scientific and public concern. While environmentalists had long warned about ecological imbalance, this era witnessed real world indicators: rising global temperatures, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and extreme weather patterns. In 1988, NASA scientist James Hansen testified before the US Senate, stating, "Global warming is real, it's happening now, and it's caused by human activities." This became a key moment when climate change was publicly and politically acknowledged as a man made crisis. International momentum also began building. In 1992, the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro brought world leaders together to discuss environmental commitments. Then, in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol was proposed, with developed countries, including the US, pledging to reduce carbon emissions. However, the US Senate later refused to ratify the protocol. This period marked a shift in understanding. Environmental degradation was no longer just about trees or wildlife, it was now a matter of human survival. Between 2000 and 2010, environmental issues in the US, particularly climate change, became trapped in a web of political division and corporate interests. While scientists and environmental groups raised urgent warnings, some political and economic factions denied or downplayed the crisis. Partisan conflict intensified. Democrats generally advocated for green energy and environmental protection, while Republicans often prioritized economic growth and viewed environmental regulations as business obstacles. Meanwhile, large fossil fuel corporations, oil, gas, and coal, lobbied against environmental regulations, funded misinformation campaigns, and sought to discredit climate science. Through media and advertising, they cast doubt on global warming, arguing that the science was unreliable, all to protect their financial interests. However, in 2006, former Vice President Al Gore's documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, reignited public attention. It exposed the reality of climate change and sparked a renewed national conversation. This was a testing era for the environmental movement, a struggle between truth and vested interests, where climate science became a battlefield of politics and economics. The Paris Agreement of 2015 marked a major global milestone in environmental history. Held under the UN framework, the conference brought together nearly 195 countries who collectively pledged to limit global warming and combat climate change. The central goal was to keep global temperature rise well below 2 DEC, ideally under 1.5 DECK. Compared to pre industrial levels, the United States, one of the world's largest carbon emitters, played a key role. Then President Barack Obama called the agreement a historic opportunity and pledged US leadership on climate. The US committed to cutting greenhouse gas emissions significantly by 2025 and promoting renewable energy. However, in 2017, President Donald Trump announced the US withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, claiming it was harmful to the American economy. This move sparked global criticism and damaged the US environmental reputation. The Paris Agreement serves as a reminder that solving the climate crisis is not just a scientific challenge. It is also a test of leadership, determination, and global cooperation. America remains a decisive player in that test. The 2020s have ushered the US and the world into a phase of the climate crisis that demands urgent and decisive action. Wildfires, heat waves, torrential rains, droughts, and hurricanes are becoming more frequent and intense. Scientific reports are clear. Unless greenhouse gas emissions are drastically reduced soon, irreversible damage to the Earth's climate will occur. In 2021, President Joe Biden rejoined the Paris Agreement and launched a series of climate initiatives, including promoting clean energy, electric vehicles, and aiming for a carbon neutral economy. The US set a target to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. However, internal political divides, corporate lobbying, and public confusion remain major obstacles. Some states are investing heavily in renewable energy, while others continue to rely on fossil fuels. The 1970s brought hope through laws and institutions, but later decades saw setbacks due to political conflict and economic interests. In the 21st century, especially after the Paris Agreement, global cooperation took center stage, and America played a central role. Today, the choices we make must be swift and clear. If America shows true leadership, it can secure a sustainable future not just for its own generations, but for the world. Environmental protection is no longer a choice, it's a necessity. And time is running out. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our upcoming content. Thanks for watching.